Alright, so today we're going to be diving into the topic that's been shaking the Yu-Gi-Oh community. Why are so many professional players quitting competitive game? Many players have been vocal on social media, and Jessica Robinson recently posted a video talking about her decision to leave the competitive game altogether. There's multiple reasons for this, so let's jump straight into it. If you enjoyed this video and want to participate in the discussion, make sure to leave your comments down below and also like the video, of course. So a lot has happened recently. What's been pestering the Yu-Gi-Oh community lately is the terrible card design. That was one of the reasons Jessica listed as quitting, and I want to dive deeper into that. She said that the blanket effects that the card have are just very, very unenjoyable, and also what they do is they make the skill gap not matter as much anymore, because a lot of times you're just not going to do well if your opponent opens one of these blanket effect type cards, even if you are much more prepared or more skillful in that situation. And she also talked about how competitive players are not topping as consistently anymore, and we have seen this happen. There's some exceptions to this rule, but for the most part, people are genuinely discouraged to continue playing, and some are even talking about preemptively quitting before a card like Mulcharmi Fuvaros even happens in the TCG and becomes a thing here. And it's not just that card design, overall combos are becoming so busted and cards do way too much. And the fact that a deck like Snake Eyes has insane recursion to the point when it doesn't even matter you did anything to the board or broke it or whatever, because they're just gonna have immense follow-up to which your follow-up is not going to compare at all unless you're also playing Snake Eyes, but then you find yourself in a situation where you're in a hand trap war, which is arguably even worse. And we have seen this time and time again on feature matches. It's tough to be innovative in a field like this, and a person like Jessica that's known for playing a very interesting deck that's sort of out of left field, someone like this is not going to have many reasons to participate in a competitive sphere where you kind of have to play the top deck, and if you don't, you have to play the second best deck, and both of them have the Fiendsmith engine, which is completely insanely busted and have nothing to do with, you know, cool combo decks that she's trying to make work, or just overall a deck that's much more interactive and fun. Like, these kinds of decks top maybe once for each deck. It is very rare to have multiple players represent the same deck in Top Cut. In an environment like this, you're not going to be encouraged to make a deck work because there's very little chances for you to actually do well because of all the RNG that's in the game right now due to these insanely powerful cards that only certain decks can play, not to mention the amount of hand traps and the very, very, very powerful engines that render your disruption useless because they give extension to top decks of the format. So you're not really encouraged to be that innovative, and you're also not encouraged to be competitive. And she also talked about this at length. It's the fact that Konami does not recognize its top players. And she actually mentioned Magic the Gathering's Hall of Fame, which I didn't know existed, and I learned something today when I did my little research about this. But, you know, Hall of Fame, like wrestling has Hall of Fame. Magic apparently also has it, and a lot of other spheres in life. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, pros are not really appreciated. Sure, you have some of these interviews on stream, and you will have some content creators introducing themes from new sets, but that's pretty much it. There's no recognition, there's no hype surrounding the players, and I already talked about this in one of my videos addressing these issues in the game. There's no feeling of spectacle. Players are not, you know, lifted up and appreciated, and they are not, you know, used in a way where they could develop a good professional relationship with Konami. There's multiple things you could do as a pro player to help this game if Konami actually showed the incentive to engage those players. They could, you know, talk about the competitive metagame, give advice, talk about decks. Like, I think they're trying to do it here and there on stream, but there's not a lot of that. There's not a lot of engaging the pro players, and just overall, they do not get recognized. And if you're not encouraged to be competitive, like if your main goal is to be a bounty duelist, that's not, you know, it's the highest you can go pretty much in terms of being recognized as a pro player. And I think that's kind of lame. And they could do much more with that because we have incredible players. Like, some of these people are they're just insane. They are so, so good, and they deserve to be recognized, and it just sucks that they are not. And also one of the reasons that, you're not encouraged to do well in this game, which is a glaring issue, and maybe I should have put this at the top of the list today, is the price support. Now, there's a lot of talk about the price support, a lot of making fun of the price support, but I think the outrage is growing because of, people discovering more and more how much other competitive card games do for the players and what kind of prizes they give out. Now, do not be discouraged by this wall of text. Ding Hang Fam actually has some amazing points, because even though he's not quitting Yu-Gi-Oh!, he is pursuing other card games, and he's not the only pro player doing so. And as more and more people learn what card games like Lorcana and One Piece and also Pokemon have as their price support, I guess Magic as well, but like the Lorcana and the new ones are most interesting right now, it is kind of embarrassing to compare this to us receiving a playmat and a deck box for doing well at a huge event, because YCSs are supposed to be important. And it's so sad but kind of funny in a weird way also how Jessica makes the comparison of doing well at locals and doing well at something like Worlds, because she actually got to go there by being the number one player in Europe, the 2023 European champion, and then getting top 8 finish at Worlds, only for her to receive absolutely nothing as prize support. Nothing. She went to Japan. She went home empty-handed, and you could say, wow, she got to go to Japan, but like, she earned it. Don't we all think she's supposed to get something? They all should, and I'm not even gonna start on the paper playmats and everything else surrounding Worlds. Also, not to mention that this year Worlds are not going to be open to the public, meaning that players are not even going to be recognized by a cheering crowd, which that would be kind of nice. Like, just treat your pro players like pros. Because they are. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is such a hard game to play. But let's not go there just yet. I want to talk about the prizes a little more. Like, how is it okay for almost every single pro player to literally own as many switches as they could? Like, people could be giving those away and still have enough left to switch them around, no pun intended, and play with a different one every single day of the week. Like, that is actually insane. Like, why is going to a locals worth much more in terms of pricing, or like participating in a random side event at a YCS than topping a YCS? I don't think a playmat and perhaps a deck box cut it when the price of the game is as insane as it is, and just overall when you're spending all this time to play the game. I get that it's a hobby, but you need to weigh the amount of time you have to put into and the amount of straight up hard work, and also the amount of money. So that brings us to 2 other topics we have to talk about, and it's the actual price of the game, which is through the roof at this point in time, and also how complex it is. And this is what I've alluded to before. It's incredibly discouraging to start to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because of how much knowledge you've got to have to play at a base level. And that's not the case with other card games. And I'm sure it's much easier to switch from Yu-Gi-Oh! To another card game because of how complex Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in the first place. But starting Yu-Gi-Oh! From scratch is actually so scary. Like, I did it. I started in 2017, and I'm still at this point not quite certain how I don't know how I did it. I think I just spent a lot of time. And you don't always have the privilege to have all of this time at your disposal, because a lot of people right now, they're in their 20s and 30s and they're doing other stuff in life. They're not just quitting and moving on because of the issues in the game, although that has something to do with it, of course. But when you have all of these players quitting on the game because of life and other reasons, and you don't bring new players into the game, your game is slowly going to die out. And what can they do realistically? They don't have a new anime, and even if they did, it would be so different from what the competitive game is looking like right now that there's no correlation and no reference point that the new players can make. So there's no incentive there, and they're just overall, the complexity is kind of wild. Not to mention the price of the game, which I also talked about a little bit, but you know, paying so much for a Fiendsmith deck and paying a lot of money to travel to events just to receive very bad pricing, to not be recognized and appreciated, how is that worth it? And the last thing I also wanted to talk about is, how are players going to be encouraged to become part of the Yu-Gi-Oh community when the community is kind of in the first place? Like, we are not that welcoming from what I've seen, and just the amount of making fun of people and dissing people's, Yu-Gi-Oh abilities and deck lists, and overall them as a person for whatever it may be in life, I think it's not a great look for Yu-Gi-Oh! And I understand when people are not excited to become part of our community, and when they are also not that proud to represent this community. And I think there are issues here that, are just not ever going to get addressed, probably because, yeah, we're trying to, I guess, point out some issues in this game, but then it just becomes this witch hunt for people, and people get canceled, and it's like, sure, that's fine, but a lot of times then people also just hate on other people for no particular reason, and it just blurs the line between, canceling someone for something they did that's actually wrong, and then hating on someone else for another reason that doesn't really make sense. Like, it's just a very rude community, not that welcoming, and I don't know, it does not feel that great to be a part of it sometimes. And that's also one of the reasons that people are quitting. They don't want to be associated with it. And I think we all have got to, talk about this more, because we are, and things are improving here and there, but it's not at the point where we could be. And all this negative just vibe that we are part of right now because of the direction the game is going is not really helping anybody. And I think all of these issues are way too big right now, and that's why players are deciding to turn away from the game. And I must say, I kind of understand it. But at the core of it all, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still such a good game in terms of mechanics. Whether you play this format or any other, like, there's still skill expression there, but I understand if you're just trying to play a legacy format right now, or if you're trying to go back maybe a couple years and play something like a toss format or whatever, like, the game is still cool, but everything surrounding it and the direction it's going in recent years is kind of a bummer. At the end of the day, I don't want to spend $2,000 or $3,000 to own a deck with which I'm going to be able to play one European YCS a year, maybe, and get pricing if I manage to top. And I don't know, it's just not very appealing lately. So hopefully some of these issues can be solved and Konami actually starts listening to the community, because more and more that I'm thinking about it, I don't think a ban list is going to change things. I think we need like a drastic reset, and I don't really know how that would look like. Is it a new master rule? Is it literally banning everything? I have no idea. Like, let me know what your thoughts are on all of this. If the game can actually recover and start going in a new direction, if you feel like Konami actually has some incentive to do this, I would love to know your thoughts. But I really wanted to bring those issues to light again, because if we all step together and try to make, Yu-Gi-Oh! A better game for all of us, I don't know, maybe we could be part of a big change for this game. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comments and share the video with your friends and ask them their opinion. I would also love to know this, and also like it if you enjoyed it. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye.